This poor fellow isn't sharp. He's weary and confused. He doesn't care about us, and he probably doesn't know what he's talking about. And you are puzzled.
Hello, Nibbles. Oh my goodness. Welcome to I'm Sick of This Place with your co-host. You can't see. She might jump on my lap, Nibbles. Today, hopefully I can get through it. Hopefully I will be able to talk about it. The diggers, who they were, the levelers, what they were, the renters, possibly if they existed.
Yeah, you know, the television monitors start playing at you the second you pick up the gas pump and put it in your car, and the news is all bad. But it's not just that it's bad, it's that it's distinct. It's totally distinct. Trying to follow the news these days is something a lot of my friends no longer try to do. It's too painful, even trying to understand Adrian Dittman and whether or not he's real, or which ideology prompted the latest terrorist or non-terrorist explosion. There are only conspiracy theories to choose from.
It all started in the Civil War, the English Civil War in, I believe, 1640. Now the diggers, and I have to be very cautious today because now I have two enemies in here. I have Nibbles and Bongo, and Nibbles is already hissing at Bongo. So I have to be very careful or not slip up and throw it in, making it an unspeakable word. So the diggers started because of the English Civil War. And what had happened was, so just imagine what ours was. If you're from America, but then just even worse, teeth and whatnot. So this guy, Gerard Winstanley, more or less was the founder, funder, whatever you want to throw at it, let it stick on the wall term. He started this shit. Because of the wartime and high taxes, he lost his clothing company or cloth business or textile, whatever. So he went from rags to shoveling shit because he decided he was going to take his cows and plant some peas and live off the common land. So just imagine, hopefully you have some woods nearby. Imagine if you lost everything and you had to mosey on into the woods with your cows, or if there's a field or a pasture. Anyways, what I'm trying to say is he went to live off the land. So eventually, where was it at? So that's the diggers, more or less. And I'm going to go back to them because this is what it's all about. The levelers were more of a political, getting into public debates and handing out papers during this time. And the ranters, this is where it gets really weird. The ranters understood how much religion is man-made tools of oppression. There's no churches in the New Testament. No stained glass, no fancy dressed ministers, none of that shit. Ranters believed in God, and God controls everything. And they argued that sins are sacraments. Sins, as well as virtuous acts, are of God. If he controls and creates everything, he'll kill us when he's ready. So do whatever. So this is almost like a weird offshoot. And the thing about the ranters is nobody knows if they really existed. There are pamphlets and shit around that time speaking about them, but not of them. About them, but not of them. You know what I'm trying to say? It's all gossip and rumor. It's tabloids. So some believe it could be made by, more or less, because nobody found out about the shit until the 60s, right? So some people were also tying that into Marxist counterculturism, purposes, because once again, it's all, oh, they could be out there. Ooh, watch out for this boogeyman that may or may not exist. So, once again, I want to go back to the Diggers, right? Gerard Winstanley. Remember, I told him he brought peas and cows to the woods. He was a pacifist, but the only time he got mad was when the king put his cow on trial for trespassing. Now, I can understand that. But they got their idea from Apostles 4:32 in the Acts of the Apostles.
The medium of our time, electric circuitry, profoundly involves men with one another.
Is it fantasy background?
To the mode of pattern recognition.
Stylized?
We can no longer build serially.
Art or three-dimensional?
Because instant communication ensures that all factors of the environment and
What time of year? Time of day? Everything you see on the screen contributes to a total effect on you.
all media work us over completely. They are so pervasive in their
personal,
political,
economic, aesthetic, psychological,
moral,
ethical,
and social consequences that they leave no part of us untouched.
Bitch, it's written. It has been written, son. If it's not down in my notes, if it's not in my phone, we're just going based off of what feels right to me. And unfortunately, if somebody gets a list of the, eventually, if I like leave this, so I actually, that might be fun. Just whenever this is full, just leave it somewhere for somebody else to stumble and be like, what the fuck is this? That's actually a weird idea. And you don't film these things. You never film these things. First off, you want life to be magical. You want life to be spontaneous. Life does not have to be filmed and recorded. And, you know, the beauty of spontaneity is that it is for you and you alone.
Well, it could happen, you see, if the president of the United States were to use the power of his office to help us mold public opinion and get that legislation.
Perfected, unaltered. The medium is the massage.
Or whomever. Now, so Apostle, or Acts 4:32 and the Acts of Apostles. Now the whole group of those who believed were of on heart and soul, and no one claimed private ownership of any possessions, but everything they owned was held in common. So, kind of a socialist, communist little part of the Bible that they were talking about. And so, English Civil War. And once again, it was in the 1640s. It started by the original King Charles, not this. I mean, I was going to say not this pedophile one, but 1640, I'm sure you're a pedophile also. So the lineage of pedophilia King Charles still continues to this day. Mark my words that it has been written. So in I need to stop saying that. In 1642, the English Civil War was started by King Charles. By 1643, Gerald Winstanley lost everything and had to move. It all ties in. Dog, listen. If I have to go back to some shit, that's because whatever I'm listening to, watching, reading, trying to, it's information they threw at me. So if they're presenting it to me in this fashion, I'm gonna present it to you in that fashion. Is that lazy of me for not trying to retool it? Sure, maybe. But when's the last time you wrote with a fucking pen or pencil? Huh? And I'm not talking about just like signing your name or signature writing on a card, you fucks. I'm talking about notes. Actually, who the fuck? No one's watching this shit. What the fuck? Who am I screaming at? Anyways. The fucking goddamn, what are they called in Gnosticism? They're called, archons, the archons of this world. So, Gerald Winstanley lost everything and had to move. Trading wasn't stable, and that left him in massive debt. Do you see how it sort of sounds like ours, and also how things are today? Nothing is new. Just know that the terminology of things may have changed, the semantics, the vocabulary, the idea that we can travel back in time to whenever the fuck. Do people really tackle the idea of English language? Or the differences in languages, because it's a lot of times they're like, oh well, a black person can't go past 1972. You know what I mean? Like shit like that, and you're like, yeah, makes sense, you know. But then, what about me, Whitey? What about me? I can't travel back in time because eventually I'm not gonna understand the language, and they're not gonna understand me. And also, it only takes about 20 goddamn years because I don't understand what some of these kids are saying today. So it isn't even like a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away if you travel back in time. What if the aliens... So what if the Garden of Eden was Atlantis and it sunk, and the old esoteric as above, so below? What if that refers to the ocean? As above, we crawled out of, so below, where we crawled from... Allegedly, I don't know. This is just.
For me, the unreality industry is. For me, I have to say we're an addictive society.
It's an invitation for dinner on the evening of your pet TV show.
It's not just that we're addicted to cocaine.
And ask them if they can send you a legend of.
I don't know nothing. I'm just speaking in tongues. Okay. So, what I am assuming is, if evolution is right, why wouldn't there be some ancient ancestor to us that's still in the ocean? And because it was ancient and never crawled into the land, it also evolved, or the intelligence of it maybe rapidly accelerated past us, because we had to learn how to walk and crawl while they just were swimming around, and maybe they eventually became bipedal and fucking travels up from the... You know, and then I watched the James Hall thing last night. Is that what it was? I don't know. Kurt Metzger talked about him, so I watched it last night. Pretty fucking high, and the man knows how to give you just enough detail to believe the shit. I don't know. It's a fun idea. It's fun. The tall whites are fun.
But we're addicted to all kinds of things. That's the only way that I can help to explain some. Is we're addicted to celebrities. And the point is, they fill up an emptiness in our life. When I think about cocaine...
Let me go back to this, man. This ain't about aliens. It's about the damn diggers. So, digger recap. 1640 Civil War. Pedophile King Charles. Gerard Winstanley loses it all. So, with nothing but his cows, he took to farming. Rags to manure. I wrote it down, so I said it again. I know it's not a good joke. I'm just trying to convey information. With the Civil War still going, he still was being taxed heavily. The local lords took advantage and took away renters' rights along with higher rates. Does that also sound familiar, folks? Does that also sound familiar? And then I wrote down that with the killing of King Charles in 1649 led to a bad harvest, but all this shit happened within like 2 years. So like the diggers started and then they like ended in 2 years. And also they only had 200 people, which I don't know if that's a lot or a little in fucking England 1640. I'm going to assume that's a decent amount, because clearly they were so much of a threat that a counselor in England didn't like it. So they must have been squashed. But before that, Gerard was like, if no one is for us, they all should have died, or not something pacifist would us. Oh yeah, because after King Charles died, he was like, yeah, fuck all those people. If they're not for us, they can all fucking die. Which is like, he started out as a pacifist. He started out so nicely that he only got mad when he mistreated his cow. He went on to publish The Law of Freedom in a platform in 1652, a 6-page book. Oh, I think that was supposed to say. Isn't it bad that you just, I swear to God, I must be like I have to be a quarter retarded. But the first time he was digging the land, but first he was digging the land, living off the land along with others. Okay, what I already discussed. Just in a single year, John Bradshaw. I'm gonna try not to read word for word because I think it's just fucking me up more. So we get John Bradshaw, a counselor in England. He didn't like it, and he thought the movement was going to spread. So what do any of them do when there is something that the government, or if there is something that somebody of some sort of substantial power doesn't like? They will often arm. They will have a small army. They will have a militant backing. They will sometimes am able to get ahead and call their local congressmen and get the National Guards down there to kill people. They love killing kids. They love killing protesters. They love killing coal miners. They love burning tents. Ooh, the National Guard is so great. They guard who? I don't know. They don't guard me. So they sent General Fairfax was sent in to investigate. When Fairfax and Winstanley met, Winstanley was not about being nice to this dude. Winstanley did not give a shit. You know, it was custom. If you're in presence of an army, you're in presence of somebody of a higher class than you. You got to take off that hat. Winstanley was not about that. His hat stayed on his head. And at the end of the day, him and Fairfax got along well enough that Fairfax was able to convince Counselor John Bradshaw that there's no problems. These people are just poor. They love God, so they're not heretics, and they're pacifists. They're not trying to put up a fight. But the local lord of the land, the closest lord of the land, Francis Drake, didn't approve of that shit. He's like, man, if the counselor ain't gonna do nothing, I can do something. I got some money. I got some motherfucking money. Once again, afraid that their movement would spread to his nearby land, he organized a violent gang to attack and destroy what they could. Classic.
B, would smack the aggressiveness and reflect on the caller's hospitality.
Well, what's the point? You only can sell like something like that because we make it illegal if it's really filling up a pain and emptiness, which I think all this celebrityhood does. Says there must be an emptiness in somewhere, whatever it's filling up. Not only we project values on them, they're our gods and our heroes.
More can be said. I said it before that this happened with the National Guard. And others, you know, I'm just not pointing like the Pinkerton group. Yes, it took me a minute. That whole entire time I was like pink. I was like, what? What is it? No, pink. Once again, in the days that you can look something up automatically, you should give yourself a moment to reflect and try to remember yourself, because if you're not remembering yourself, you're not sharpening your mind. You're just not using it. So try to give yourself 5 minutes and then look it up at the very least. So when Stanley and his diggers, so they did everything that you could think of, starting out, you know, destroying crops. They didn't get super violent until they started burning the houses with the people in there. That was like the final straw because they weren't having shit. At one point, they brought the diggers into a church where, you know, they were beaten and tortured, you know, their version of the Abu Ghraib. And but that led to nowhere because once again, they didn't. Only God can judge me. So what had happened was they then started locking them up for just whatever reasons they could. And actually, the diggers, 10 diggers, were like, Yeah, we did it. I don't want any lawyers. I'm not ashamed of my actions. I'm not trying to defend my actions. My actions are my own, and I approve of my actions, which just happened to be farming the land that nobody was using. So they didn't deny it. So they weren't a fan of churches. They weren't a fan of established religions, I shouldn't say established religions. I should say establishments. They weren't a fan of somebody telling you what God has to say. They thought God was between you and God. You have a private relationship with him. You don't have to go to somebody in order to understand what he has to say to you. He should speak to you and speak directly to you, not somebody speaking to you for him, muddled up with their own thoughts and their own, desires divvied in.
99.5% of all American homes have a television set.
Got to have a set. No, that set is not connected. That is not. No, that is not. I'm trying to get these pains. Listen, I don't care who's on television right now. There's probably an old late movie.
That's more than have indoor toilets or stoves or refrigerators.
That would be presumptuous and hectic.
And that means that the television set
Read this book.
is now the most common denominator in our lives as Americans.
Try this. See if done lightly seems best. Here's a little answer copy book.
The television set. The average American watches television 4 hours and 15 minutes a day. That's the average amount.
So during this sermon, the army, which when Stanley had, dealt with before, now it wasn't Fairfax, but everything was being done because of Lord Francis Drake. And Lord Francis Drake was using this church. So the army comes in. The diggers are like, okay, well, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, because certainly the army has treated us a lot better. They came, they saw, they left. There was no, issues. There was no problems. But this Lord and his fucking backing, that's the issues. So the diggers who loved God but opposed the church helped the army by putting a bundle of thorns on the podium thing. I don't know what that is. The preaching stand, they put a bed of thorns there. Like, if you want to play Jesus, if you want to play God, wear this fucking, get stabbed, son. Wear this thorny crown. You think you the king? You think you know Jesus? You know God? Do something. Which just made everybody hate them more. So at first you had whoever could be paid to hate. Now you have people openly hating you because you took the side of the army and you were like, hey, fuck churches, fuck you people. If you really loved God and were so loving, you would love us and allow us not to be beaten and thrown in jail for farming the land that nobody else is using. And also, this Lord's a dickhead. These renters are dickheads. Fuck them people, So at their highest point, they had 11 acres and 6 houses, and they also had winter crops. And this is where the burning started. But obviously not everyone hated him. There's always some good guys in the mix, like Anthony Rang, whose house still stands today. I don't know what he did, but he was mentioned. I don't know if there was some like hiding him in the closet, some sort of ink. Anne Hathaway, Anne Frank thing. I said Anne Hank. I was like, what the fuck is this bitch name? Anne Frank, Anne Hathaway, Anne Hank. 2 diggers arrested. The last attack on the diggers. They set fire to all the houses. With the families in there. Fire force eviction, son. The movement never could gain after that. Or to find land again. But by 1671, when Stanley was a property owner and helped all he could, and he was also a constable. What else? What do I got here? Oh, this is one of his quotes. For what you call law is but a club of the rich over the lowest of men, satisfying the satisfying the conquest of earth by a few. I had to hold the microphone to Snoopy. I don't know if it's going to pick it up. Okay, so we're going to take it from the top. And I wrote things really, 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 really close together. So it's kind of difficult. And words become one solid mass of hieroglyphic things that I have to then determine. For what you call the law is but a club of rich over the lowest of men, satisfying the conquest of the earth by a few and making their theft the way of things. But over and above these pitiful statues of yours that enclose the common land and reduce us to poverty, to make you fat stands the law of creation, which renders judgment on the rich and poor alike, making them one. For freedom is a man who will thus turn the world upside down. Therefore, no wonder he has enemies. So what I take from that is he's like, listen, you people are worshiping idols. You erect these gaudy, god-awful things that only help you and are only of you, these things that cost money, time, and labor, that provide nothing for nobody. We don't like that. What else I got here? Listening to what the White Man Dingoes using book. Oh yeah, so it took me like 3 nights, probably about 4 hours of going through tapes, these cats are very distracting. I'm waiting for this light to fall and fucking hit this camera. So I bought a bunch of sci-fi magazines from the 50s and 70s because I don't give a fuck. I'm going back in time through literature. No. Just because I'm talking about the books doesn't mean you go in the books. No.
In this country, when one company wants to take over another company, they simply buy up a controlling share of the stock. But first, they have to file notice with the government. That's how CCA took over the company that owns this network. But now, somebody is buying up CCA. Somebody called the Western World Funding Corporation. They filed the notice this morning. Well, just who in the hell is the Western World Funding Corporation? It is a consortium of banks and insurance companies who are not buying CCA for themselves, but as agents for somebody else. And who is the somebody else? They won't tell you. They won't tell you. They won't tell the Senate. They won't tell the SEC, the FTC. They won't tell the Justice Department. They won't tell Mr. Hackett.
And because they're so old, I have to tape them up because they're kind of just getting pulverized and slowly shredding and self-eating themselves. And at first, I was just doing one long piece of tape and then folding it over the edge, the binding, the book binding. I was trying to book binding tape. There we go. So at first, I was using these long pieces of tape, and that did not work out well. So then I started, obviously, just being like, use as little as much and being precise, which just took long. So I got, a handful of albums now. I'm not a fucking record guy. I guess I am a record guy now, but I'm not buying like Led Zeppelin 2. I'm listening to the White Man Dingoes. Maybe that makes me more of a record guy because, But anyways, I'm trying to buy things that are a little less known. I'm reading Maggot Brain and I'm reading Cream. So I'm sorry if that makes me a record guy. And I still haven't finished, Mind Over Matter. But what the fuck was the point of that? I don't know. I have an idea for a short story or another story. And I think my issue is that I don't know how to write, but the only way to get better at writing is to do the actual act. And I was never good in school. I can barely fucking pronounce words. I can barely speak words. Okay. So the story that I am trying to come up with is the idea of, because these old sci-fi books are, most of these guys born in the 20s, we'll say, and they grew up with the nation being, it's a Christian nation. Even though when there was the settlers, all those people had their own fucking different, like, I think Emo Phillips has the best joke on Christianity, where it's just like, are you a this or a that? Okay, are you Protestant or a Catholic? You're a Protestant. Are you a this or a that? You're a that. Okay, are you that? Like, it just continues to go until it's like, whatever, sub act 32X, it's just like some insanely like branched off, and then like, yes, and then he's, you heretic, and pushes him over. I'm bastardizing the joke, but the joke is that there's, like, when you think of a Christian nation, it's just not one denomination. From the very beginning, there has been so many offshoots and so many of their own things. Shout out the Mormon Mafia. They probably got Howard Hughes and injected him with heroin for 30 years. Yeah, aliens are time travelers, billionaires from, yeah. Here's a fun idea for you. Do you think billionaires of the future are the only ones that have time travel capabilities? Because billionaires right now can shoot rockets, or maybe trillionaires of the future. Who knows? But I think it's interesting to think. I think I do. I think I must. I think I'm blue. I think I'm depressed. I think I'm sad. Why, oh, why can I never play Pajama Sam in school? Why, oh, why could I never play Zumbinis while I go into the library and I only see people that play Zumbinis? Who are these people? I do not know. They're always in there, so I'm told. I try and see them in classes, but I don't see any seats or no asses in those. I try. But what if aliens are seriously just the time-traveling billionaires, and because of whatever like the butterfly effect, they are so scared of it that they don't even dare touch down, and when they do, they look different. Maybe we're so far into the future that we just look different. I don't know. I've also thought that, what if they're just like hermaphroditic? Because you know how they always talk about like anal probed back in the day? What if the anal probing was to get their old ancient DNA back? Because there's the idea of panspermia, which is just a recipe that you're gonna learn. It's easy to make. Just takes some cum on the oven, it bakes, and then you got some fucking planets in your face, a couple of spore whores. Panspermia is the idea that like a piece of DNA crash landed on here, and then that gave us life. What if these creatures are probing us because they need our ancient unhermaphroditic DNA, because they fucked themselves so much over that they can only reproduce test tube babies, or maybe their DNA is so fucked up they need some of ours to revert back to them, their more primordial selves.
Perception is a mental image that listeners develop. Often this image is in direct conflict with what the truth may actually be.
Dad, don't bring that into the house.
Socialism will come back in the form of communalism. In other words, little groups, little guerrilla commandos.
That's why I see it being discredited by the conspiracy. What is a conspiracy? There are two kinds, top-down and bottom-up. Which one would you like to be? Well, top-down, I guess, was the obvious one. Well, no. See, the top-down plays catch-up with the bottom-up effects. It's always the case. The socialism was wiped out by television. You don't believe that? Reagan and Thatcher. No, not the content, the medium itself, the tactile mesh. It bypassed the kinetic movie mosaic of the radio era. In other words, Churchill, Hitler, Stalin, Mao, Roosevelt, Oliver Cromwell, all these characters who ran around in the early part of the 20th century, products of the radio. Now, fascism and socialism were byproducts through cultural distortion of the same effect of the radio environment. Now, TV brings in what we call the new left or the new right, right?
23andMe has told me I got a lot of Neanderthal in me, and I don't appreciate that. I don't approve of that. I think that's bullshit. And yeah, I know what you're thinking. Who's think? No one's watching this shit. What I'm thinking, and what I'm thinking is, I already knew that they were going to use my DNA for whatever purposes, but I had a fucked up heart when I was born. So, you want fucked up heart genetics? Sure. Have at it, son. But billionaires might be the aliens of the future. Think about it. Could the Garden of Eden be Atlantis? Think about it. Noah's flood, sinking Atlantis. I don't know what it means. The angels, aliens coming from the ocean, Eden, up above. Maybe the ocean is its own dimension. It's a pressure dimension. It's a dimension we cannot go to. The pressure is so intense that we cannot go there. We cannot go there with ships. We cannot go there in our human meat vessels. But these things can. We often think, what is time a dimension? Is a dimension a movement? Is it a like X and Y planes? Remember that in the graphing calculators? What if the ocean is just a lower dimension? Because the higher you get up, I guess the lower you go down, you probably lose oxygen too. Obviously. Isn't it funny how plants feed on carbon? Oh my goodness, I don't need you going in there. You're nasty ass. You're always wet and wild, Ezekiel. No, don't go in the fucking box. I don't need you nastying all my fucking old books. They're probably pulverized now. Didn't I say it was going to be fun when I record video because of these fucking cats? Who sent me a message? I need to go in my notes. I can't remember anything. Let's see what we have here. Oh, yeah. So here's an idea that I think is why everybody says, I don't mind being spied. I don't mind being watched. What do I have to say? Well, if you're not afraid of the panopticon horror that is either coming or we are doing it to ourselves, from the very beginning, the idea of Santa Claus, He knows when you're, good or awake, watching. God's watching you. You are always told you are being watched. And if you're told from the very beginning you're always being watched, that is the current state. That is your subconscious mind knowing that. And when the government is always watching you, go, well, I've always been watched from the very beginning, and nothing has happened horribly yet. As far as me dying, maybe I've been molested. Maybe there has been a ominous creature scratching at my window at night with giant red eyes staring and going, "You should never sleep." And maybe that is just a metaphor for the molestation. Who knows what has happened to you when you've been being watched by entities? So I think the idea that people are fine with the NSA watching is because since the very beginning, you have been told you are being watched and you have been powerless to stop the eyes, the gaze. But I really do think as above, so below pertains to, which I don't know if anyone's said that yet. But it does make sense in my insane eye. Oh yeah, I wanted Hulk hands really bad as a kid. Did anybody else? I don't know why. I wasn't that big of a fan of the movies. I just thought it'd be fun to have giant hands to punch things with. I guess that was the purpose of Hulk hands, but I really wanted them. And then they had Thing feet, which was really bizarre. I guess because they couldn't want. I understand if they thought that by doing Thing hands that it would be double dipping or people would think less of them, but to go with Thing feet, that is bizarre. They should have done with maybe a bat or something. The Thing bat, it's clobbering time or something. A Thing head, feet, yeah, I don't know what you can do for the Thing besides the hands and a head, maybe. Or bat, based on his catchphrase. But do kids even have toys, or do they come out of the womb already grasping for the nearest blinking blue light thing to zap to make them depressed? Interesting.
What truth is what listeners think truth is, and that is all that matters.
Story ideas can be proposed or censored.
Is that the level? Is that or another one? Some of my friends who are more of a students of American history than I am say that apparently Thomas Jefferson had a last leader. I defy anybody. I don't think that's incidental because I think they were the products of what we would call the print age. And learning by print, by reading, is very different. You go from elementary books. You have to reflect. Mm-hmm. You have to think. It's a solitary. Whereas there almost are no prerequisites to watch TV. Some of the best students of the medium said there is no such thing as children's TV.
Oh yeah, isn't it? So I can't remember much of my childhood. But I have been watching like Jimmy Neutron, Dexter's Lab, shit from my childhood again. Actually, it's weird. Jimmy Neutron and Dexter's Lab. I prefer Dexter. That's the show I watched first, and they're the same. They're close but different. I will say, character-wise, I prefer Jimmy and his. Like, if I wanted to hang out with people, I'd rather hang out with Jimmy and his friends Because who am I going to hang out with? Dexter? Dexter's a dickhead. Dee Dee's annoying. Mandark's fucking annoying. Like, the dad's kind of cool. The mom obviously got that butt. But who do you really want to hang out with? Monkey, I guess. And that fucking bitch with the really gelled bangs. And the guy in the TV box. But Jimmy Neutron, you know, I can see a little bit of myself in each of the characters, and I think that's important. I cannot see myself in. I mean, I can see myself being annoyed, and I'm basing this on like the first 7 episodes that I've rewatched. Yes, I've seen more than 7 episodes in my lifetime, but what I'm trying to convey is every episode I've remembered, but I haven't been able to remember my past, my childhood. So what the fuck does that mean? Another thing, Dexter is more of an evil genius. He 7 episodes in, he's done. I mean, Monkey clearly is a lab animal. There's been mice, so he's fine. He's fine being like Fauci. I wouldn't be surprised if Dexter also, you know, cut the vocal cords off of beagles, had their scalps removed, and let flies eat them. Isn't that what happened to those beagles? Didn't Fauci do that? He like did some horrible thing. That's Dexter's. Jimmy is like, oh my God, my mom's complaining about me not picking up my pants, which I still don't do as a goddamn adult. If I miss it in the clothing basket, my bad. But I got these pants that are on the ground. Let me make them sentient and pick themselves up. Like, that's something I can fuck with more than what Dexter's going on. But once again, I like Dexter more. I don't know what it is. Is it because it hit me first? Is it because I don't see myself in these characters? But in today's society, you have to, the person, there's nothing, if you're not identifying them with the skin tone and the everything else, you clearly cannot identify yourself with that character. Apparently, I can identify myself at some point parts with Dee Dee. I can, Cindy, who's a black chick from Jimmy Neutron. I can see what I mean. Like, you can, if you cannot identify yourself with others who are different than you, there's something wrong with you. In fact, I seen something so beautiful the other day at work, which is 2 people of a different race and sex bonding over the fact that they were both raised by bowlers. And there's easily a 10 to, I would say 10, 15 year difference, age difference, you know? And that's beautiful. That is what the world needs. Bonding over things like that. See what I mean? They certainly aren't similar as you would assume. You know, what would a 30-year-old white kid and a 45-year-old black woman with kids have in common? Pff, who knows? They could never have anything in common except for that their parents loved bowling and they cherished memories. And in fact, they can bond and love and appreciate each other over the fact that they are so similar, yet somehow different. I think that's beautiful. And I think that's what we need. Now, what do I have written down in these notes? And I'm finally fucking waking up. I should never take sleeping pills, and no amount of caffeine has helped for the past fucking 3 hours. You take caffeine, you take a hot shower, you fucking put it on cold at the end to perk you up. It perks you up for a little bit. And then you sit on the couch, and then it all just goes to black, and you get tired again. So, yeah. I'm sick of this place. I'm sorry. I'm winded. I'm sorry. I'm tired. But I'm just gotta produce these things. It's a one-man operation, as you can probably tell. Anyways, enjoy this fucking song.
Just cause you read how some white man say
life was like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get.
I got to come up with something fit is saying, well, fine. I just write down how happy I'm gonna be to get $20 more on my birthday. Never mind what he got planned for me this year. And I'ma write how maybe the new man my mama seeing might stop drinking and treat me nice.
You fucking hold on, you're gonna hang you! You fucking faggot nigger!
Now, it was okay for me to say it right then because I was just telling you that it's illegal to say.
Well, I'm not a racist. I know you're not a racist, but you just did something racist. Do you understand?
Why am I so moody?
And maybe he gon' adopt me and take us off the welfare. And at the end, I'm gonna be sure and put it.
Racist. It's not about who you are, it's about what you do. Like, it's one of those. When did you become Jesus Christ? There you go, sorry, that's it.
How did I get unhappy?
No fighting in a funeral. You're right. He's got to wait for the wake.
All right, wake rules.
There's no wake rules. There's no any rules, guys. Come on. You can't. We fought at a wake. You fought at a wake. You were there. Yeah, because it was my aunt's wake. Tommy, we're not talking about this, okay? Your uncle's out of
What, you've never seen a stripper in the daylight before? Kind of like seeing a celebrity, huh?
Saw Susan Sarandon once. Didn't get to see her gaping asshole the night before, though.
Right now, I'm just full-on chasing a goose. Really slow, like slow time, down like a little hill in Hyde Park.
But to tell you the truth, Miss Stroud,
I want to kill the President of the United States of America. This goose is probably going to be good for another couple hours because he can't go anywhere. I got to cut him off, though. He's going to find his friends. Gotta go. Suck you later. Bye.
I think you and that book and this whole class be a bowl full of shit.